Bavaria, located in southern Germany, is a quiet, peaceful region that doesn't attract much attention. But this silence witnessed a horrific tragedy in March of 1922. Back then, the Hinterkaifeck farm was a secluded place where a small group of people lived, far from the bustling world. The farm, surrounded by forests and vast fields, was almost isolated. In fact, life on the farm was quite hard. At night, the howling north winds and eerie noises from the depths of the forest could unsettle anyone. But nobody had any idea about the terrifying events that would soon unfold there. The people living on the farm were 63-year-old Andreas Gruber and his wife Casimira, their 35-year-old daughter, Victoria, and her 7-year-old daughter Cecile, as well as 17-year-old farmhand Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Everything would change on the night of March 31st, 1922, in the most horrifying way. Andreas Gruber woke up early on that morning to carry out his usual farm chores. But something seemed off that day. According to his neighbors, Gruber had found something strange: a set of footprints. He had discovered tracks in the snow near the farm. As he followed the tracks, he noticed they led directly to the farm. But he didn't inform anyone, not his neighbors or anyone he could trust. He simply went about his business, unaware that something sinister was waiting for him. The following day, another odd thing happened. Gruber's gun had gone missing. This weapon would later become the tool of the murders. Later that morning, the horrific events would unfold, leading to the brutal slaying of all the Gruber family members and their farmhand. No one in the house heard a thing. The killer, or killers, had moved stealthily inside, killing one after the other. March 31st, 1922 was the night when horror struck. No one could have predicted that a family and their farmhand would lose their lives in a matter of hours. Within just a few hours, Andreas, his wife Casimira, their daughter Victoria, her daughter Cecile, and farmhand Lorenz Schlittenbauer would all be dead. No one screamed loud enough for anyone to hear. No one suspected anything was wrong. The killer had silently carried out the murders, as if nothing had happened. The first victims were Andreas Gruber and his wife Casimira. They were struck in the head and killed instantly. At that moment, no one woke up in the house. Their deaths were quick and silent. The next victim was their daughter Victoria. She too was murdered in the same way, and tragically, little Cecile, Victoria's daughter, was also killed. Finally, farmhand Lorenz Schlittenbauer was also murdered. Lorenz was killed with a gun, and he too probably heard the last screams before he died. Everything ended in darkness. No one understood what had happened that night. No one had any idea who was responsible. The discovery of the murders came the next morning when the bodies were found on the farm. At first, the neighbors thought it might be an accident or a tragic event. But they quickly realized the truth. A family and their worker had been brutally murdered. The killer, or killers, remained unknown. The neighbors started to notice strange sounds and movements coming from the farm. Some even claimed they had seen dark silhouettes moving around the farm at night. But these were just rumors, and there was no concrete evidence. The mystery deepened, and suspicion fell on everyone, but no one was able to connect the dots. Years passed, and theories about the Hinterkaifeck murders continued to emerge. A police investigation was quickly launched, but there were no concrete clues about who the killer or killers were. Despite extensive investigations, no one was ever arrested or even identified as a suspect. Some investigators believed the killer had been familiar with the farm, someone who knew the layout and routines of the family, but there was no definitive proof. Moreover, many strange details emerged during the investigation. For example, the killer had not harmed any of the animals on the farm. After committing the murders, the killer seemed to carry on as though nothing had happened. This eerie calmness left everyone more confused than ever. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most terrifying and unsolved mysteries. Many questions still remain unanswered. Who was the killer? And why did they target just this family? Why were certain family members spared and others killed? Despite extensive investigations, No tangible evidence was ever found that could point to the killer. Today, the area where Hinterkaifeck once stood remains abandoned, and the eerie silence of the forest and the memory of the farm still seem to whisper dark secrets. Although the murders remain unsolved, the mystery of Hinterkaifeck continues to captivate those interested in unsolved crimes and the supernatural. The Hinterkaifeck murders have been carefully researched over the years. Despite numerous attempts to solve the crime, it remains unsolved. Even after decades, people continue to wonder about the details of the crime, and the possibility of the truth ever being known seems increasingly remote. Yet, the mystery of what happened that night, the eerie details, and the unanswered questions ensure that Hinterkaifeck remains one of Germany's most chilling and unresolved crimes. Thus, the terrifying story of the Hinterkaifeck murders comes to an end, but the unanswered questions and the restless spirits of the victims remain,